B.3, Overview of Web Programming. Finally, we get to what we need to do, web programming. But we need to do some very simple overview before we start doing web programming. All right. Let's look at an overview of web programming. We still look from two sides, client side and server side. Yeah. From the client side, the basic part, the lowest level, web design languages, HTML. We have to start with HTML. Okay? I feel many of you should know a little bit about HTML. But we will learn the details of HTML soon. Yeah. HTML describes the structure of a web page, semantically, structure. Yeah. So organize your data, the text data, yeah, based on the, semantic meaning, right? Organize the paragraphs, but mainly on the content of your web pages. All right, then CSS, Cascade Style Sheet, CSS. Yeah. The style sheet then describing the presentation style, because you need to show some part of the text in different styles. When you want to do that, okay, yeah, then you can use CSS rules to control that. Yeah. So we will also learn that part. Yeah. For this class, this is the first course of web technologies. We cannot go very deep. We try to cover all the basic things, large number of basic things, but for each one, due to the limitation of the time, we cannot spend too much time, so we can only cover, the basic part, small amount of things. For HTML, CSS, yeah, we just do the basic things. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So when we do that, so here you can get some little sense. Yeah. When we get into the detail, yeah, we will show you, the meaning of all these things. What's that? Why we want to use this way? Yeah. So in our later lectures, we will explain that kind of details. Yeah. Basically, we try to build a solid foundation for the web programming technologies. Yeah. From the knowledge part, we may not cover a lot of things, because after we get a good structure built in our mind, adding new knowledge pieces, it's very easy. Yeah. All right. Client-side scripting language. This is a very important component. Yeah. Actually, I mentioned in the previous slide, when we want to do dynamic features, we can do two sides, client side and the server side. Client side, we use JavaScript for the dynamic features. Yeah. So JavaScript enables interactive web pages. So you can, do a lot of interactions with your users. Yeah. So that's very important. Yeah. Yeah. And right now, the JavaScript technology becomes more and more important in current web technology community. it becomes more and more important. So you really need to spend a lot of time in this JavaScript part. Yeah. All right. Next, server-side programming languages. Here, let's just talk about several most popular server-side programming languages. The first one, PHP. It's a scripting language. So that means it is not a compiled programming language. It is a scripting. Interpreted. You do not compile it. You run your source code directly. So it's interpreted. Yeah. Some of the languages are interpreted. Some of the languages are compiled. Java is a compiled programming language. PHP, Python, interpret scripting languages. Yeah. PHP is a server scripting language, powerful because there are many large number of functions, hundreds of functions, probably more, even more, because the number of functions keep growing. Yeah. Powerful tool making dynamic interactive web pages from the server side. Yeah. So you use the dynamic features from the both side. Yeah. All right, the PHP. So basically, to use the PHP, it's very simple. Yeah. So you start with HTML file. Okay, so in your HTML file, so you have the content. If you want to add dynamic feature, you embed PHP code with this tag. This is a PHP tag. Okay, yeah, this less than sign question mark PHP. That's the open tag of PHP code. Then you add your PHP code. Then you close it. Okay. Question mark greater than sign. Okay. Between these pair of tags, that's all the PHP code inside. Yeah. So we will get to that details later. Yeah. All right. Next, Java EE. But Java has several editions. This Java EE Enterprise Edition. We need to use this Enterprise Edition. Yeah. Not the SE. SE, the Standard Edition. Standard. That's the minimum. That's the core Java. The minimum part. Yeah. We need to use more than that. Okay. So other than Java SE plus several other APIs, several other technologies, specifications. Remember I talked about servlet specification before. Okay, there are several specifications. Servlet specification, JSP specification, Java Bean specification, JDBC specification, right? There are many technologies added into or on top of Java SE. Yeah. Then you can do a lot of things at the server side. All right. Another important player, Microsoft ASP.NET. Yeah. Many companies still use that. Yeah, because Microsoft provides a lot of support, business support, a lot of tools, a lot of convenient tools. Yeah. So those companies, so they like to have those tools. So they use the Microsoft.NET technology. They have their community. Yeah. It's a pretty big community. Yeah. All right. Web forms extend the event-driven model. So here, Microsoft, they use a different model. Yeah. For Java EE, the model we use here, request response model. Request / response model. Okay? Communication model. Yeah. But Microsoft uses a different model. Yeah. Event-driven model. So why event-driven? This model comes from desktop application. Desktop application. Yeah. Because Microsoft, they are good at desktop application at the beginning. Yeah. So most of their software developed in the desktop applications. Then in 1990s, so web technology start, growing. So they need to go to the web technologies. So they want to develop their own web technologies. But they have a lot of technologies already developed in the desktop side. So they try to transfer to the website. So they borrow the event-driven model from the desktop side to the website. Yeah. Specifically, how to use it, exactly the same way. The concept is the same as the desktop side. All right. In a web page, you have many components: the button, the radio button, the drop-down list, all those things. Yeah. Those components can trigger an event. Just like the desktop components, buttons, trigger an event. When one event is triggered, it is associated with a callback function, just like their desktop way. So the callback function, then the programmer, you need to write a code inside the callback function to implement some feature, doing data processing. Yeah. Then the callback function will return result. That model. So that's completely different from the request response model. Okay. Yeah. But for this class, we use this, the most popular communication model, request response model. This model is established on HTTP protocol. Okay. All right. Then Python. Currently, it is a big, important player in the technology world. The reason is AI. It is the programming language for AI. Yeah. So that's why it is an important player. So we need to learn it. Yeah. Properties for quick prototyping and iterations. Yeah. Prototyping, here you can see doing the prototyping, usually for small companies. So when you want to do some new technologies, before you make big investment in it, you want to do a simple prototype, okay? And try to feel about if it is good enough or not. Talk to people and how about this feature? How about doing that way? Prototyping. So Python is good at that. You can do it very fast, very efficient. Yeah. Rich standard libraries, especially AI libraries, data science libraries, scientific computing libraries, all those things. So you can use directly. Yeah. So that's a really big advantages for Python. Yeah. But it has some drawbacks. Yeah. Fewer seasoned developers. Yeah. Because it's relatively new. So usually Python used in web development, usually for relatively small companies. Yeah. So not big companies, big projects. Yeah. So there is some, problem, technology build up. So there is some problem there. Yeah. Another is speed limitations. Yeah. Yeah. So you need to consider all those factors. Yeah. When people choose programming languages at the server side. Yeah. But there is another way to do it. For example, you can use PHP or Java EE as your main programming language at the server side. But when you need to call those rich libraries, that's very important, rich library, then you can connect to Python. You can find some way to call Python functions. Then you get result, then you process the return result. So there's another option. All right,